All right, shalom, shalom, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday night Torah study. You caught me in mid-text. Give me 1 second here. They just tell me when we go live, and then I don't know. All right, there we go. All right, welcome to the Torah study. I'm glad everyone that was able to come out here. The weather is awful, but not as bad as they were saying, though. It's just a little wet and cold. And actually, it's funny because the more people are moving here from places that are not necessarily the south, the more they're not afraid of coming out when the weather's not so beautiful, a little colder, because it's something they're used to from where you are. Because I'll tell you what, even the hint that it might snow will shut everything down in this town. Someone whispered the word snow and everybody gets freaked out. So, I often tell everybody, I say, look, I learned to drive. I took driver's ed in January in New York. So, it was snow, ice, black ice. Black ice is the worst, but, because it's just hard, solid, slick, and it's not going anywhere. But anyway, so welcome, everyone. I know in some parts of the Midwest and towards the Northeast, it's gotten a lot of snow going on all over the country. So I hope you're warm and comfortable where you are, because we're going to be warmed up here with our study of the Word. Amen. Okay. And so we're going to go ahead, for those of you that are new, those of you on the live stream, we're going to go through a couple of things. This is the order of service here, or the order of our study. We're going to do our prayer needs. Anybody has a prayer need, we'll take care of those first. Then we'll go through some announcements. Then we're going to read the portion for this week. Then we'll repeat the announcements real quickly in case people had to leave, early, that they got to at least hear them first. And anybody came in later, missed them, could get to hear them again. So that won't be long. Then we're going to have our midrashic discussion of the Torah portion. Okay, and then we'll close with a prayer. All right. So if you have a prayer need and you want to go ahead and raise your hand, Michael, why don't you grab the mic, because Steve's out there fixing my garage door, actually, at the moment. Okay, Trisha's got her hand up to go first. If you're on live stream, Manny's got the live stream desk there. You can type in your requests, and he'll take care of that. All right, Trisha.
Thank you. I'd just like to continue to lift my mom up in prayer. She's just in a real serious situation right now with pain in her neck. Also, I've got a headache and have some unspoken I'd like to ask prayer for, please. Thank you.
Amen, no problem. Okay, anybody else here in the room? Okay, bring it over to Charles.
Robertson had her hand up first.
I'm sorry, Robertson Joanne.
I would like to ask that people would pray for my husband, who's going to have a procedure done tomorrow. So if we could please pray for him. Thank you.
Amen, no problem. All right, now Charles.
Amen. I just wanted to thank everybody for the prayers this week. I just had some family things going on, and thank you for your prayers, and all was good, so just giving praise for that.
Amen. Well said. We should all be able to say that when we go through our challenging times. Abba's good. We're not always good, but he's always good. I mean, do you all realize that he never struggles with anything? So we should become like him, right? So we'll stop struggling with stuff, because he's actually in charge and has it under control, so we don't need to struggle. Amen. Okay, Manny, live stream.
Okay, we have many unspoken. Janice Schreiber prays for Rabbi being able to take my call this week. Such a blessing, also unspoken. Prayer for, Shirley. Prayer for healing for very sick coworker. Prayer for friend of son for healing and recovery. Olivia and Janet Hoffman, kindly praying for wisdom and discernment for our family. Thanks so much. Lady Di, praise report, my brother's surgery went well. Prayers for MTOI family. Chris and Ollie Dennis, prayer request. Andy has a neurology appointment on Thursday to see when the plasma exchange begins again, so prayers for Friday's appointment. Olivia and Janet Hoffman praying for Rabbi Tom also. Let's see. Maria, pray for my husband's heart. Prays that he allowed us to get rid of our Christmas decorations. Pray that his heart becomes more open. He's an atheist. walk softly upon the earth. Prayer requests. My depression and PTSD is becoming noticed by others, having a tough time covering it now. Robert, pray for my neighbor, Jim, whose wife passed away last Thursday, who suffered badly with heart trouble. Pray for peace and strength for him. Thank you. Santi, prayers for protection, providence, and guidance of a young adult fellowship. Helen, pray for me that I can trust Yahweh and people around me, which I was abused and having a very hard time trusting. MTOI Philippines Jet. Praise report, answered prayer. Rabbi Steve is planning to go to the Philippines this coming Passover. Processing now, praise Yah.
All right, just for clarification, I'm planning to be there for the second Passover.
Thus my look of confusion, like...
That came up this week at the leadership meeting, and I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could do one of the holy days at some of these places overseas? And I realized, well, there is an opportunity because of the thing known as the second Passover for those who missed the first. I said, well, we could certainly do a second Passover, and I could do that over there in the Philippines. So we're trying to work on that. So I didn't want you to think all of a sudden I wasn't going to be here for Passover. No, I'll be here. And a month later, I'll be there. Okay, so, okay.
Okay, awesome. Let's see. Christy, prayer for wisdom and discernment. For Alice, prayer, still having health issues, wanting to get tested for a diagnosis. Catherine, prayers for all my family to have their eyes opened and ears opened and a heart to receive the truth. Tracy Waymeyer, first follow up with neurosurgeon tomorrow after my surgery. Continue praying for healing and successful recovery from surgery. Lady Di also prayers. My son finds a permanent job and my daughter finds a house. And we're on a bit of a delay, but that's about it.
Okay. I'm sure the weather is not doing things nicely with some of the things that we're doing, but it's okay. All right, fantastic. We do want to add a few. Anybody else in here? Okay, good. I just want to add a couple of things. We want to pray for all those that have contacted us since Shabbat, because they tend to do that. We have lots of people contact us. On a personal note, just pray for all those that will be traveling on this sort of staff vacation. That we will be not only safe on the trip, which will be next week, but also that we'll be healthy to get to the trip. Nothing worse than going on vacation under the weather. And so we've already had a little bit of that, but that hopefully has gotten out of the way before we leave, which is good. And so we pray for that. The staff has worked very hard and diligently and could certainly use the break. On a personal note, also, if I guess I just look this way at the camera, if you could be patient with the contacting us, and not so much contacting us, but contacting me. I have a hard time with all of the people contacting us to keep up with the emails, especially. So if you email, just be persistent and keep emailing. If it's urgent, please call. And here's the thing, though. If you call and I can't get back to you at the designated time, then call back and give me another time. Because I will tell you this, if I do call you at the time you tell me and you're not there, okay, I often can't leave you a message, because if I leave you a message, it's going to be after hours here, and you're just going to call here and get a voicemail. Okay, especially if you told me to call at night. And so you'll just have to call back at another time. But be persistent, and if it's urgent, just say it's urgent, and make sure that we try to get me on the phone right away. If I'm here in the office, if I'm not already handling some other emergency, I'll try to take the phone. But I do ask that you would be very patient with that. All right? And be persistent. Please do not read into the lack of response as being a lack of response necessarily. I may have tried and just didn't leave you a message, because that would only frustrate you more that you missed the call and everything else. But recognize that I do try to call people back, but it's not always possible if they say, I need a call back between this time and that time because that's my lunch break or whatever it is. Because some of the people that are calling have spouses that are not happy about all this. And when they want to talk to me about their stuff, they don't want to do it with them hovering over them, yelling or something. So, but I can't always call at the time you specify. And if I miss the window or the time frame, please call back. Give me another window, just a reminder. We'll try to get to it. And if any of the other staff can help you, please let them do that. Okay? But I do make an effort to call as many people back as I can. As long as I can do it, I'll do that the best I can. All right. See if there's anything else I want to add. I think that's it for right now. So I do appreciate everybody with the spokens and the unspoken. So now let's go before our Father and pray. But actually, let's also pray for the opening of the study. So why don't I have one of the men raise their hand, and we'll have, okay, Charles, right there. What'd you do with the mic? Oh, you put it down. Shame on you. You're fired. Okay.
So you do love me.
He says, so you do love me. Father chastens all that he loves. Rabbi fires all that he loves. It kind of works out that way. Especially volunteers like Michael who aren't not on staff, so I can't really fire him. Okay, Charles, go ahead.
Abba, we just thank you for all these prayer requests that were spoken, Lord, and we just ask you to be with us tonight as we study, and let this Torah that goes into us, Lord, let it be applied to our lives as we go from this place this evening. And we just thank you for all that you do for us. And Abba, we just stand at all that, like Rabbi said, that you don't have a problem dealing with things, but we do. And I just thank you for dealing with me and us, and just giving us what we need. And I just ask that you bless this Torah study tonight as we are here. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right. Actually, I was going to add something to this. You can put that back if you want. We're not going to need it for a little while, but okay. I just want to add something I was thinking about while Charles was praying. Look, one of the biggest problems that we have within the body is within married couples, where the father has only called or opened up the eyes of one of the two. We get calls about this every day. And I'm going to encourage two things, okay? One is, please recognize that what you're going through is very common, unfortunately, but it is common. So don't feel like, why am I being picked on? It actually is very common. It's actually fairly unusual, or a smaller percentage of people where the husband and wife are called at the same time than when they're called one at a time. As a matter of fact, even in couples where they're both on the same page now, they didn't necessarily start on the same page. It was one and then the other. Okay, so just be encouraged by that this is not unusual. The other thing is, the reality is some of those marriages are only going to keep getting worse, and some of them will get better. We just don't know which way it's going to go. But what I want to encourage you, though, is this. You are going to have to come to the place where you figure out what you want in terms of your relationship with your spouse. You got to figure out what you want and then work hard in that direction. Okay? If it's not going to work, then it's not going to work. If it is going to work, then you got to work at it. What you can't do, though, is call here asking us to make the decision for you. Okay? Not our decision to make, and I don't want to own the responsibility of the decision. We say, well, I didn't think I really needed to go in, stay or not. Because they may be upset because they stayed, they may be upset because they left. If you're going to stay or leave, it's on you. But you got to figure out what you want. And some of you have never really felt the freedom to figure out what you want. Some of you have been in abusive families and abusive marriages where there was no validation that you actually should have an opinion about what you want. Well, guess what? You're going to have to figure out what you want. And then you're going to have to work through that. Now, I can help you figure that out. I can help you, kind of dig through your own head and sort through your own feelings and stuff, but you're going to have to figure out what you want. Okay, so don't be surprised if you call me for counsel and I may ask you questions. Well, what do you want? That's not a harsh, cold, insensitive thing, by the way. I don't know what I can do for you until you tell me what it is you want. I may look at you and say, well, what do you want? What can I do? And sometimes the answer is, I just need you to listen to me. Well, I'd like to, and I don't always have enough time for that. And we do have other people on the staff that can do that. And if I can, I will. But recognize that none of this stuff, by the way, is actually in the scripture. We do this because we love you. There's no scriptural mandate that we have to fix your marriages or help you with all your career stuff or any of that stuff. But we're a body also, and we're a community. So we do this out of love. And we want to do this. But you still have to own your own responsibility for your decisions. We can only guide you through your own head. Not guide you to the right decision, but help you figure out what you really want. And then help you work in the direction. Does that make sense? So I pray, as part of what Charles asked for the prayer, that people will be given the strength to find the clarity of what's going on in their own, all that noise in their own heads. There's a lot of noise. And I think that what we're going to try to do in the future, I know we've been trying to create more content and have opportunities we may do like a little morning show of some sort where I can give like a 15, 30-minute thing like on this, like what I was just talking about. And have a little once a week or however many times we can put it together on a regular basis, have maybe a little round table, just a couple of people talking and bring up a subject, and then I can share some things like this, so it doesn't necessarily take up prayer time and services on Saturday or prayer time now. But sometimes these things come up, and I want to get them out there, because as a body, we, as human beings on the whole planet, we all struggle with something that I guess in some levels, we completely understand why it is. In other levels, we think it shouldn't be a struggle. I mean, life should not be this tough. And then we put human beings into it, and it's brutal. And so why is that? Well, because we're all broken and damaged, and we don't know what to do. But part of it also is because we don't know what we want. We're just kind of floundering around, flopping around, and just all over the place, and just don't even know what we want. So just wanted to give that clarity. We are here to try to help with some of these things, but we're not here to fix everything for you. We're not here to decide things for you. We're here to help guide you in your own process of fixing things, or allowing the Father to fix it or guide you, or to help you with your decisions. Okay, that's what we call counsel. All right? If I was your father and you were 8, I would tell you what to do. Okay, but I'm not your father and you're not 8. Do you understand what I'm saying? But I've had people call me up and say, I have messed this up for 70 years, 60 years, whatever it is. Just tell me what to do. I already realize I don't know what I'm doing. Well, how about we help you figure out to make better decisions? So you don't rely on somebody else to make the decision for you. Okay? Probably, easy for me to say, probably part of the problem is that you've abdicated that for so long to other people. And those other people were not good at what they did, so you ended up in all kinds of mess because they put you in bad positions. But you listened, you gave them the authority. Okay? And so you have to own those decisions, right? Okay? I remember when I was in first coming into Bible studying, Torah observance, believing in Messiah. I was in my mid-20s. I owned 2 businesses at the time. I had a karate school and a DJing business. Okay, the DJing business, no problem. I could move that to make sure I was never, during Shabbat. So I didn't do Friday nights anymore, and I did Saturdays only if it was during the winter, especially when it would be after sundown. I can get to do the gigs that I was, being booked for. I did weddings and parties and all that kind of stuff, right? And the particular ministry that I was a part of, though, that congregation, the pastor did not believe, well, I should say it the other way. He believed that all that music I was playing was evil and of the devil and everything else. And you know what? I was willing to just be submissive to authority. See, some of you may wonder how I am because I'm in charge over here. I was very submissive. They said that they really thought that was inappropriate. I stopped doing it. Look, this is back in 1981, well, I guess when I came in, it was about 87. So 87, 86, 87, I'm making, back then, $150 an hour, 4 hours a night, $600, 2 gigs a week, $1,200 a week, 24 years old, 23 years old. Not bad, 1987. Pretty good for now. Okay? And I was willing to give that up. But I allowed someone else to make those decisions for me instead of just taking their guidance, thinking for myself and whatever. But I was willing to say, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to trust that Abba has a plan, and if I give that up, I'll get something else. The man also was not really excited about the karate thing either, so I gave that up. So I shut down my 2 means of income and my 2 businesses because of that. Now, again, I don't blame anymore them. I did for a little while. Not when I first made the decisions, but later on when I realized that I had done things or stopped doing things I really didn't have to stop doing. Okay? But I had to learn to own my decisions. So I just wanted to give that little story to you because some of you may think, oh, but Rabbi, you never had to deal with this stuff. I sat in a chair like you're doing. I had listened to some guy in front of a mic. But I was submissive. I trusted that's where Abba had me, and I was going to follow and listen and give it a try full on. I do not regret any of that. Okay? Okay, I mean, it was a lesson I needed to learn, and I learned to trust. That was the anointed, appointed that I was put in front of. That was the only time I'd been in front of anybody in a church setting, and they were teaching Torah and they're teaching Messiah. I was excited. I didn't care what they told me to do. But I was also naive, etc., and I didn't have the ability to vet. I didn't have any context to vet. See, most of you have some context because you were raised in some sort of church environment, so at least you know sort of a structural thing. I wasn't raised in anything. I went to, services very rarely as a Jew. Hebrew school wasn't services. We almost never, ever talked to the rabbi. We didn't have any interaction like you might have with a pastor in that particular setting. So I didn't understand any of that stuff from that upbringing. So this was all new to me to figure out, and I watched others and learned by watching and observing, But just so you know, I know how to be submissive. I had to do that when I was in your shoes. Very, very much so. And like I said, it was the right thing to do, even though it hurt me financially for a period of time. And you look, and some of it was for a pretty good amount of time because I took out a loan to start the school. And so I paid that loan off for 3 years without the school. So I kept paying a loan off that I didn't have a school for. I took out like a 4-year loan, had the school for a year, and then shut it down and still paid the loan for another 3 years. Either that or it was a 5-year loan, I paid for another 4 years, whatever it was. Hey, but you know what? I was still excited. I was learning about Messiah. I was learning about the truth. I was learning about the Torah. I was learning about my Creator. I had no relationship before that. I didn't really care about all that physical stuff as much. So just so you know, because some of you are thinking, but it's costing me my career, it's costing me my job, it's costing me this, because I make a lot more money on Saturday and everything else. No, I can empathize. I gave that all up too. I made $600 in 4 hours on a Friday night. I could have done that every Friday night. And only worked once a week. I would have been very well off as a 20-year-old kid, mid-20s kid, $600 a week. This is back in 1980, mid-80s. The equivalent of making a lot more today, let's put it that way, right? For those you know the 80s compared to now, 40 years ago. All right, that same $600 a night could be over $1,000 a day in one day, a couple hours work. Now, of course, it was a little more than the 4 hours I was working for 4 hours, but I had to get there, set up the equipment, and pack it up and everything. So figure more like 7 or 8 hours. But still, it's a lot of money. But I didn't think of the money. And you guys got to be careful that you're not thinking of money either when you make your decisions as far as whether you're keeping the Torah or not. Then you just got to, now bear in mind, I immediately figured out how to do other things. I didn't just wallow and be depressed and unemployed. I looked to find other work, and I found other work. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Hopefully, maybe somebody needed to hear that. I'll sound like those Sunday guys. Abba told me somebody's going to need to hear this. Somebody out there is struggling with somebody's struggling with a back injury. Wow, how'd you know? Somebody's marriage is in trouble. Abba speaks to him. You notice they never pick something so ridiculously obscure that it really is only one person, It's like something like, that's a real random shot. You're not going to catch anybody. Somebody's struggling with their finances. Wow. How do you know? And there are people literally in their living rooms going, honey, he knows. And if their spouse is half a brain, he's going, what, are you kidding me? Anyway. But I just feel like maybe that was something that could help somebody to hear that, okay? Anyway, tonight's Torah portion brought to you by Confessions from the Rabbi let me get to the part here I want to get to. Oh, by the way, I do want to welcome, we're doing announcements first. I do want to welcome any of our guests online there I know you guys aren't guests, you guys are all part of the congregation here, but we do have some guests maybe on a live stream. I keep pointing that way for you guys on a live stream because that's where the guy is sitting with the screens in front of him, paying attention to what you guys are typing. I want to welcome you guys. I do want to mention some announcements. Some of them are for you guys online more than for here. We do this every Tuesday night, okay? So just so you know, we do this every Tuesday night, so at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. I also want to mention that we do have a YMTOI program. That is the youth program that we put together. It's free. YMTOI stands for Young Messianic Torah Observant Israelites. And they have a Parsha Pearls program. You can find that at ymtoi.org. Okay, and it's got a free program you could be using for your Sabbath school, for Shabbat, or for homeschoolers for as part of their Bible school, their Bible lessons, Torah lessons. All right. And then, of course, we have Shabbat services every Sabbath at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. We live stream that on YouTube, just like we're doing now with the Torah study. Then coming up in December 22nd, that's the first candle for Hanukkah that night. And then on that Saturday, the 28th, okay, that is the seventh candle. After Oneg, which will be after sundown, we'll light the seventh candle. It's also Rosh Chodesh for Tvet. Okay, so we're going to have a real big Shabbat, then lighting a candle for Hanukkah, then Rosh Chodesh. We are going to just celebrate. Okay? Then January the 19th, okay, that's our next leadership meeting for any of the leaders that are online tonight. Okay, we just had a really good leadership meeting. I'll tell you guys maybe more about it on Shabbat. But we had a really good leadership meeting on this past Sunday. And so we do that once a month. And by leadership, that's not just locally here. That's leadership from around the world. We had people from Canada, from the U.S., from Northern Ireland, from South Africa. And so we had quite a bit of representation there. And then Passover is coming. Okay, so April 8th through 16th, we already have over 60 people signed up. Okay, yeah. Well, and we just barely announced it, so we got over 60, close to 70 people signed up. So go ahead and get your paperwork in. If you go to the MTOI.org website, look for the events section. Under events, you'll find Passover, and you can find the application there. If you're here, there's still 7 or 8 copies on the back table by the offering box, and you can grab a copy of the application for registration form, really. Okay, so that's going to do it for the announcement. So let's go ahead and get into tonight's portion. It is Vayishlach, which means and he sent. All right, from Bereshit, from Genesis 32:3 to 36:43. Okay, so those are the couple of chapters we're going to read. So we're going to read to the end of chapter 36. I have 9 readings. So if you want to read, come on up, fill the chairs. The first chair is still empty if anybody wants to sit in it. Okay, and we'll have 9 readers. All right, I think I've got, 4, 8. I got 8 chairs, so we'll need one more than we have chairs for. All right. Okay, but we can use some readers there. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to call up each person one at a time, and then each person who wants to read, when I call you up, I'll tell you what verses you're going to read to and from. I'll say a little blessing, traditional blessing over each reader. After we finish reading, we're going to go through the announcements again really quickly, not the whole story from when I was DJing and all that stuff, just the quick announcements. For those that maybe have come in late, they will have missed the announcements. And then we're going to discuss the portion. So if you're online or if you're here, you may want to take notes. If there's something that we read today that triggers for you a question or stimulates you with a comment or something that you might want to share, please make a note of that in your notes, so that when we get to the discussion portion, you'll be ready to bring those points up. Excuse me. Now, okay, I think that should cover it for that. And then after we finish discussing the portion, we'll have a closing blessing, and that should do it. That'll wrap it up. All right, so we'll begin here with Wayne. Wayne, come on up. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? Give me a second to kind of reset this whole deal. All right, this way I can hand you the microphone. Okay. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Wayne, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Wayne's going to start us off in chapter 32. If you're coming up to read, I do have the big scriptures up here on the bima if you want to use it. Chapter 32, verses 3 to 18.
And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau, his brother, in Elana Seir, the field of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, Say this to my master Esau, your servant Jacob said this, I have sovereign with Laban, and stayed there until now, and I have bulls and donkeys, flocks, and male and female servants. And I have sent to inform my master to find favor in your eyes. So the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, We come to your brother Esau, and he also is coming to meet you, and 400 men with him. And Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. So he divided the people that were with him, and the flocks and herds and camels, into 2 groups. And he said, If Esau comes to the one group and strikes it, then the other group which is left shall escape. And Jacob said, O Elohim of my father Abraham, and Elohim of my father Yishak, Yahweh, who said to me, Return to your land and to your relatives, and I do good to you. And I do not deserve the least of all the loving commitment and all the truth which you have shown your servant, for I passed over this Jordan with my staff, and now I have become 2 groups. Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he comes and shall strike me, and the mother with the children. For you said, I shall certainly do good to you, and shall make your seed as the sand of the sea, which are too numerous to count. And he spent the night there, and took what came to his hand as a present for Esau his brother, 200 female goats, and 20 male goats, and 200 eels, and 20 rams, 30 suckling camels with their colts, 40 cows, and 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 fowls. And he gave into the hand of his servants every drove by itself, and said to his servants, Pass over before me, and put some distance between drove and drove. And he commanded the first one, saying, When Esau my brother meets you, and asks you, saying, To whom do you belong, and where are you going? And whose are these in front of you? Then you shall say, They are your servant Jacob's. It is a present sent to my master Esau, and see, he also is behind us.
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you, Wayne. Okay, next up, Robinson Joanne. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Robinson Joanne, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us now from chapter 32, verse 19, to the end of the chapter.
Then you shall say, There are your servants, Jacob. It is a present sent to my master Esau. And see, he also is behind us. So he commanded the second and the third and all who followed the droves, saying, Speak to Esau this same word when you find him. And you shall say, Also look, your servant Jacob is behind us. And he said, Let me appease him with the presence that goes before me, and after that see his face, he might accept me. And the present passed over before him, but he himself spent the night in the camp. And he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 female servants and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford of Jacob. And he took them and sent them over the stream, and sent over what he had. And Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until breaking of day. And when he saw that he did not overcome him, he touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip was dislocated as he wrestled with him. And he said, Let me go, for the day breaks. But he said, I am not letting you go until you have blessed me. So he asked him, What is your name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, Your name is no longer called Jacob, but Israel, because you have striven with Elohim and with men and have overcome. And Jacob asked him, saying, Please let me know your name. And he said, why do you ask about my name? And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen Elohim face to face, and my life is preserved. And the sun rose on him as he passed over Peniel, and he limped on his hip. That is why the children of Israel to this day do not eat the sinew of the hip, which is on the socket of the thigh, because he touched the socket of the thigh of Jacob in the hip, in the sinew of the hip.
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you, Representative Joanne. Okay, Michael. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Michael who's come up to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Michael's going to take us into chapter 33 and read the entire chapter.
And Jacob lifted his eyes and looked and saw Esau coming, and with him 400 men. And he divided the children among Leah and Rachel and the 2 female servants. And he put the female servant and their children in front, and Leah and her children behind, and Rachel and Yosef last. And he himself passed over before them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. And Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. And he lifted his eyes and saw the woman and children and said, "Who are these with you?" And he said, "The children with whom Elohim has favored your servant." Then the female servants came near, they and their children, and bowed themselves. And Leah also came near with her children, and they bowed themselves. And Joseph and Rachel came near, and they bowed themselves. Then Esau said, "What do you mean by all this company which I met?" And he said, "To find favor in the eyes of my master." But Esau said, "I have enough. My brother, let what you have remain yours." And Jacob said, "No, please. If I have now found favor in your eyes, then receive my presents from my hand, because I have seen your face like seeing the face of Elohim, and you were pleased with me. Please, take my blessing that is brought to you, because Elohim has favored me, and because I have all I need." And he urged him, and he took it. And he said, "Let us depart and go, and let me go before you." But he said to him, "My master knows that the children are weak, and the flocks and herds which are nursing are with me. And if the men should drive them hard one day, all the flock shall die. Please let my master go before his servant, and let me lead on slowly according to the pace of the livestock, that they go before me, and according to the pace of the children, until I come to my master in Seir." And Esau said, "Please, let me leave with you some of the people who are with me." But he said, "Why this? Let me find favor in the eyes of my master." And Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. And Jacob set out to Sukkot and built himself a house and made booths for his livestock. That is why the name of the place is called Sukkot. And Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, which he came from Padan Aram. And he pitched his tent before the city. And he brought the portion of the field where he had pitched his tent from the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 Kesita. And he set up a slaughter place there and called it El Elohe Yisrael.
Amen. Amen. Excuse me. All right, Mr. Charles. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Charles, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Charles, going to take us now to chapter 34 and read verses 1 through 17.
And Dina, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hewite prince of the land, saw her and took her and lay with her and humbled her. And his being clung to Dina, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the girl and spoke kindly to the girl. And Shechem spoke to her, to his father Hamor, saying, "Take this girl for me for a wife." And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dina, his daughter. Now his sons were with the livestock in the field, so Jacob kept silent until they came. And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak with him. And the sons of Jacob came in from the field when they heard it. And the men were grieved and very wroth, because he had done a senseless deed in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, which should not be done. But Hamor spoke with them, saying, "My son Shechem's being longs for your daughter. Please give her to him for a wife, and intermarry with us. Give us your daughter, and take our daughters for yourselves, and dwell with us, and let the land be before you. Dwell and move about in it, and have possessions in it." And Shechem said to her father and her father's brothers, "Let me find favor in your eyes, and whatever you say to me I give. Ask of me a bride prince, and a gift ever so high, and I give according to what you say to me. But give me the girl for a wife." But the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father, and spoke with deceit, because he had defiled Dina their sister. And they said to them, "We are not able to do this matter, to give our sister to one who is uncircumcised, for that would be a reproach to us. Only on this condition would we agree to you, if you become as we are, to have every male of you circumcised. Then we should give our daughters to you, and take your daughters to us, and we shall dwell with you, and shall become one people. But if you do not listen to us and be circumcised, we shall take our daughter and go." And their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's sons. And the young man did not delay to do this, because he delighted in Jacob's daughter. Now he was more respected than all the households of his father. What verse are we going to? Okay, so I'll pass it up.
All right, you went a little further, but that's because I was busy taking notes as well. So where did you end up stopping? 19. All right, that's okay. Ms. Shira, come on up. That's still a good place to have stopped, actually. All right, he who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Shira, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, Shira is now going to take us from verse 20 to the end of the chapter.
And Hamor and Shechem his son came to the gate of their city, and spoke with the men of their city, saying, "These men are at peace with us, so let them dwell in the land and move about in it. And see, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters for us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only on this condition would the men agree to dwell with us, to be one people, if every male among us is circumcised as they are circumcised, their herds and their possessions and all their beasts, should they not be ours? Only let us agree with them and let them dwell with us. And all who went out of the gate of his city listened to Hamor and Shechem his son. Every male was circumcised, all who went out of the gate of his city. And it came to be on the third day, when they were in pain, that two of the sons of Yaakov, Shimon and Levi, Dina's brothers, each took his sword and came boldly upon the city and killed all the males. And they killed Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dina from Shechem's house and went out. The sons of Yaakov came upon the slain and plundered the city, because they had defiled their sister. They took their flocks and their herds and their donkeys, and that which was in the city and that which was in the field, and all their wealth. And all their little ones and their wives they took captive, and they plundered all that was in the houses. And Yaakov said to Shimon and Levi, "You have troubled me by making me a stench among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And I am few in number, and they shall gather themselves against me, and shall strike me, and I shall be destroyed, my household and I." But they said, "Should he treat our sister like a whore?"
Amen. Okay. You know, we kind of had a little lighthearted, serious contest last time. This one's gotten a lot more serious. Okay. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless me, who's come up down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, we're going to go now into chapter 34. And no, where are we? 35, and I didn't mark it off here. That's my problem. 35, and read verses 1 through 15.
Okay. And Elohim said to Jacob, "Arise, go to Bethel and dwell there, and make a slaughter place there to El, who appeared to you when you fled from the face of Esau your brother." And Jacob said to his household, to all who were with him, "Put away the foreign mighty ones that are among you, and cleanse yourselves, and change your garments. And let us arise and go up to Bethel, and let me make there a slaughter place to El, who answered me in the day of my distress, and has been with me in the way which I have gone." So they gave Jacob all the foreign mighty ones which were in their hands, and all their earrings which were in their ears. And Jacob hid them under the terebinth tree, which was near Shechem. And they departed, and the fear of Elohim was upon the cities that were all around them. And they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. And Jacob came to Luz, which is Bethel, which is in the land of Canaan, he and all the people who were with him. And he built there a slaughter place, and called the place El Bethel, because there Elohim had appeared to him when he fled from the face of his brother. And Deborah, Ribkah's nurse, died, and she was buried below Bethel under the terebinth tree. So the name of it was called Elon Bakuth. And Elohim appeared to Jacob again. When he came from Padam Aram, and he blessed him. And Elohim said to him, "Your name is Jacob. Your name is no longer called Jacob, but Yisrael is your name." And he called his name Yisrael. And Elohim said to him, "I am El Shaddai. Be fruitful and increase. A nation and a company of nations shall be from you, and sovereigns shall come from your body. And the land which I gave Abraham and Yitzhak I give to you, and your seed after you I give this land." And Elohim went up from him in the place where he had spoken with him. And Jacob set up a standing column in the place where he had spoken with him, a monument of stone. And he poured a drink offering on it, and he poured oil on it. And Jacob called the name of the place where Elohim spoke with him, Bethel.
Amen. Amen. Okay, I've got 3 more readers. I got 3 people waiting. That's perfect. Okay, Brianna. See how timing can work? Apparently, when the children did the Torah portion, this is the exact same part she read at school today. So you should know it pretty good. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Brianna, who has come down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us now from verse 16 to 29.
Then they set out from Bethel, and it came to be, when there was but little distance to go to Ephrath, that Rachel began to give birth, and had great difficulty giving birth. And it came to be, as she was having great difficulty giving birth, that the midwife said to her, "Do not fear, for it is another son for you." And it came to be, as her life was going out, for she died, that she called his name Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. And Yaakov set a standing column on her burial place, which is the monument of Rachel's burial place to this day. And Israel set out and pitched his tent beyond the tower of Edar. And it came to be, when Israel dwelt in that land, that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine. And Israel heard about it. Now the sons of Yaakov were 12. The sons of Leah were Reuben, Yaakov's firstborn, and Shimon, and Levi, and Yehudah, and Yissachar, and Zebulon. The sons of Rachel were Yosef and Binyamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's female servant, were Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's female servant, were Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Yaakov, who were born to him in Padan Aram. And Yaakov came to his father Yitzhak at Mamre, at Or Kirath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Yitzhak had dwelt. And the days of Yitzhak were 180 years. So Yitzhak breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people, aged and satisfied of days. And his sons Esau and Yaakov buried him.
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you, Brianna. Okay, next up, Christina. Hey, listen, she just read all the children, but those are the easier names that we're more familiar with. Somehow Michelle always ends up with some of the genealogy stuff too. So, okay, but you're going to catch most of it here. Don't be pointing the finger at him. All right, see, it's already starting, Michael. See, you're not even married yet. It's already starting. Okay, that's right. She did submit. You sent her up here. All right, then don't whine about it. All right, here we go. Okay, this is marriage counseling in front of everybody on YouTube. Okay. Okay, so for all those of you, she did good submitting, not good complaining about it. Okay. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Christina, who's come out down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us into chapter 36 and read verses 1 through 22. Oh, yeah, you got most of it.
And this is the genealogy of Esau, who is Edom. Esau took his wives from the daughters of Canaan, Adah, the daughter of Elon, the Hittite, and Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zibon, the Hittite. And Basmath, Ishmael's daughter, the sister of Nebaioth. And Adah bore Eliphaz to Esau. Basmath bore Ruel. And Aholibamah bore Yeush and Yalam and Korah. These were the sons of Esau who were born to him in the land of Canaan. And Esau took his wives and his sons and his daughters and all the beings of his household and his herds and all his beasts and all his possessions which he had gained in the land of Canaan, and went to a land away from the presence of his brother Yaakov. For their possessions were too great for them to dwell together, and the land of their sojournings could not support them because of their herds. So Esau dwelt in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. And this is the genealogy of Esau, the father of the Edomites, in Mount Seir. And these were the names of Esau's sons. Eliphaz, son of Adah, wife of Esau, and Ruel, son of Basmath, wife of Esau. And the sons of Eliphaz were Teman, Omar, Sepho, and Gatam, and Kenaz. And Timnah was the concubine of Eliphaz, Esau's son. And she bore Amalek to Eliphaz. And these were the sons of Adah, Esau's wife. And these were the sons of Ruel, Nahath, and Zerah, and Shema, and Mizah. These were the sons of Basmath, Esau's wife. These were the sons of Aholibamah, Esau's wife, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zibon. And she bore to Esau Yeush, and Yalam, and Korah. And these were the chiefs of the sons of Esau. And the sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn son of Esau, were Chief Teman, Chief Omar, Chief Sepho, Chief Kenaz, Chief Korah, Chief Gatam, Chief of Amalek. These were the chiefs of Eliphaz in the land of Edom. These were the sons of Adah. And these were the sons of Ruel, Esau's son, Chief Nahath, Chief Zerah, Chief Shema, and Chief Mizah. These were the chiefs of Ruel in the land of Edom. And these were the sons of Basmath, Esau's wife. And these were the sons of Aholibamah, Esau's wife, Chief Yeush, Chief Yalam, and Chief Korah. These were the chiefs descending from Aholibamah, Esau's wife, the daughter of Anah. And these were the sons of Esau, who is Edom, and these were their chiefs. These were the sons of Seir, the Horite, who inhabited the land, Lotan, and Shobal, and Sibon, and Anah, and Dishon, and Etzer, and Dishon. These were the chiefs of the Horites, the sons of Seir, in the land of Edom. And the sons of Lotan were Horai and Haman. Lotan's sister was Timnah. Yes.
Hey! I don't know why you protested. You did an amazing job. That was good. There you go. I gave you extra prayer. Just think of the blessing that you were to the other people that said, thank Yah, it wasn't me. See, that was a great service you performed. And now you get to complete it. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Michelle, who's come up down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us into the last reading here from verse 23 to 43, to the end of the chapter.
And these were the sons of Shobal, Alwan, and Manahath, and Ebal, Sepho, and Onam. And these were the sons of Sibon, both Ayah and Anah. This was the Anah who found the water in the wilderness as he fed the donkeys of his father Sibon. And these were the children of Anah, Dishon, and Oholibamath, the daughter of Anah. And these were the sons of Dishon, Hemdan, and Eshban, and Yithran, and Karan. These were the sons of Esther, Bilhan, and Zaawan, and Aquan. These were the sons of Dishon, Uts, and Aran. These were the chiefs of the Horites, Chief Lotan, Chief Shobal, Chief Saban, Chief Anah, Chief Dishon, Chief Esther, and Chief Dishon. These were the chiefs of the Horites according to their chiefs in the land of Seir. And these were the sovereigns who reigned in the land of Edom before any sovereign reigned over the children of Israel. And Bela, the son of Beor, reigned in Edom, and the name of his city was Dinhabah. And Bela died, and Yobab, son of Zerah of Batsra, reigned in his place. And Yobab died, and Husham of the land of the Temanites reigned in his place. And Husham died, and Hadad, son of Bedad, who struck Midian in the field of Moab, reigned in his place. And the name of the city was Awith. And Hadad died, and Samlah of Methrecha reigned in his place. And Samlah died, and Shaul of Rehoboth by the river reigned in his place. And Shaul died, and Baal-Hanan, son of Achbor, reigned in his place. And Baal-Hanan, son of Achbor, died, and Hadar reigned in his place. And the name of his city was Pau, and his wife's name was Mechatabel, the daughter of Matred, the daughter of Me-Zahab. And these were the names of the chiefs of Esau according to their clans and their places by their names: Chief Timnah, Chief Alwa, Chief Yetheth, Chief Oholibama, Chief Elah, Chief Pinon, Chief Kenaz, Chief Taman, Chief Mibzar, Chief Migdael, Chief Aram. These were the chiefs of Edom according to their dwelling places in the land of their possessions. Esau was the father of the Edomites.
Awesome job. Awesome job. Thank you. All right, give me 1 second to get the mic set back up. All right. One of the Gadol children, please remember there's a Dorito on the floor here that you guys left from lunch. Over by my mic stand. You can get that after we are done. All right. We use this place also for our MTOI Academy. For those who didn't make that announcement, we have a school here. We have about 25 children in it. And we set up the tables in here. They get to eat their lunch in here. All right, the blessing after the Torah reading. Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Yahweh noten haTorah. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us a Torah of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. And blessed are you, Yahweh, giver of the Torah. Amen. Amen. All right, so last week we did have quite a little bit of lighthearted fun, a little bit with the competition for the attention of Yaakov and the birthing of sons and all kinds of cool things. And this week it gets a little more serious. We've got some life and death issues and some other things going on. So, of course, we know there was also serious ramifications, things happening with the children as well in last week's Torah portion. So what we're going to do is give me a minute to just quickly go through the announcements for anybody that might have missed them earlier. We shouldn't take very long to go through them. They're just some important dates and reminders. So let me do that quickly, and then we will go through our discussion of this week's portion. So again, I want to welcome our guests. If you're a first-timer or a new person to our broadcast, please, as a reminder, if you're enjoying this, it would help if you would hit that subscribe button or the like button. It does affect the YouTube metrics, where they decide whether or not to put these things on people's sidebars and give them as a recommendation for them. So every Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, like we're here tonight, this isn't like sort of a strange thing that we do. We do this every week, so you're welcome to be here every Tuesday night. We also have a youth program, MTOI program, Young Messianic Torah Observant Israelites, as our organization is called MTOI, Messianic Torah Observant Israel. It's called Parsha Pearls. You can find that at ymtoi.org. It is free. It's about 50, 60 pages of a PDF that has each week's Torah portion. It has games. It has coloring pages. It has Hebrew words from the Torah portion. It has memory verses, mazes, crafts. I mean, just all kinds of fabulous things for your children to learn. By children, that would be all ages, but really it's designed mostly for the children 5 to about 20, okay? But all ages are welcome, and you can learn a lot from the Torah portion program called Parsha Pearls. You can use it in your Shabbat school. You could use it just as part of your homeschooling. Shabbat services, we do stream that live also here every week, so people are welcome to that as well. December the 22nd, that is the first candle of Hanukkah. If you are going to be participating, this is a tradition. It's not a requirement for you to keep Hanukkah, but if you do, it is something that will be beginning on the evening of the 22nd, going into the 23rd. December the 28th will be a Shabbat, and after the Oneg, after we have our meal after services, if you are here locally, also we'll be streaming this as well, not the meal part, but afterwards at 6:30, we will be lighting the 7th candle, and we'll also be having our Rosh Chodesh service for the month of Tevet. Okay, the next new moon will be coming. January the 19th is our next leadership meetings, and so you will get an email, those in the leadership, to remind you about that. And that will be at the normal times. And then Passover is coming April 8th through 16th. Those are the dates we will be on property. Okay, so it runs from the 9th until the 15th, I guess, and then we'll be leaving on the 16th. We're getting there before and leaving after, but so you'll look that up. And I think that, and just remember that, so on the website, if you look under events, you'll find the Passover stuff, and you can start registering. We already have over 60, almost 70 people registered, and we just barely started announcing it, so it's going to get full pretty quickly. We will not run out of room for you, or just go ahead and make sure you get yourself in there and registered as soon as you can, so we'll know that you're coming. All right. I think that's going to cover it. Oh, a reminder. So next week, we will definitely be having Torah Study. I just won't be here. Rabbi Tom will be leading the Torah Study. Okay, so I encourage all of you to be here to help support him and encourage him in leading the study. And then you'll be going through Vayishlach, okay, the next portion. All right, so let's get into the discussion of this week's Torah portion, Vayishlach. Now, we have a couple of sort of game rules to all of this. We have some protocols. Our first one is that we would like to go through it somewhat chronologically. So if we can start in chapter 32 and work our way across to 36, that would be great. It gives us the right flow of the story so we kind of know what's going on. Also, if you are online, please be respectful of the leadership online. This is not a place to promote your own agenda, your own ministries, or any other thing. This is a MTOI, Beth Shalom, Torah study that you are, being a part of virtually and getting to join in with, but be respectful of the fact that you are a guest if you're a guest. Now, those of you that are on regularly, you already know the protocols, and I'm sure you don't give them any hassle as far as online. Now, what we're looking also for, if we can, is what can you glean from the Torah portion that you can apply in your own lives? Can you see yourself in any of the players that play throughout this drama that we're reading here? I mean, can you recognize some traits or some things where you say, wow, that's definitely me in a good way, or wow, that's definitely me in a bad way and I need to fix it? Okay, so things we can glean to see ourselves in the portion so we can learn and grow. Because remember, Paul tells us these things are written as examples for us so that we can grow from them. Okay? Also, as you go through the portion, let's be careful that we're not stating speculation as fact, and be respectful if I decide to point you towards a teaching instead of answering the whole detailed answer to a question if there's a teaching that does it better. All right, so that being said, let's go ahead and why don't we start with the live stream this week? Manny, are you going to be ready with those? Or you want us to start here first? Start out here first? Okay, because it'll give you a chance to write some of these things down. Okay, Mr. Steve, is my garage working? No. Well, not really. Maybe.
A GFCI was tricked, but we couldn't find it. So it might be on the box. The little yellow button inside the panel box could be that.
Okay, so we'll have to figure that out tomorrow. Okay. All right, sorry. Personal business. Okay. Michael's got the mic anyway, so. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with Michael.
Okay, so
I guess the tradition is whoever has the mic walking around gets to go first. Because Steve usually does that. Okay. Go ahead.
So 32 verse 8, when he says, and he said, if Esau comes to the one group and strikes it, then the other group which is left shall escape. So what stuck out to me is it was like, and maybe you can repackage this in some way, but like he had like it was kind of like a secondary, I don't know how to explain it. Like there was a plan B, if this group doesn't make it, well, then this other group will survive. And kind of in life, I think we should all, at least myself anyway, should learn how to do that, to always have backup, have a plan B for everything we do.
Amen. All right, well, what you have going on here is still in chapter 32, is you have still a relational challenge for Jacob. He's not quite gotten to the point where he fully trusts and understands how to trust Yah and everything, okay? So he's scared, and he says it. He says it in his prayer. He says, I fear for Esau is going to kill me. But now, if you're in that place, it certainly is not wrong for you to then, as best you can, to say, look, I want to do what I can to assure, the survival of my group here. And bear in mind, Jacob also knew he wasn't innocent in a bunch of stuff. So he wasn't sure how Yah was going to let him reap or sow at this point, especially when it came to the birthright and the whole thing he did with Esau, the blessing, etc. So it certainly wasn't just not him trusting Yah. He might have also been not sure which way Yah was going to go in this case. Okay? So Esau said, you know what, let me do what I can. You remember, his job as the head, as the man of the family, was to provide and protect. So his best way to protect was to split them up. That was the best he could figure at that time. Okay? So that's a big part of this. Also, if you notice that, it also points prophetically to the idea of Jacob becoming two. He splits them into two groups. So it prophetically points to Ephraim and Judah. Okay, so you have the two houses sort of pointed to here, that Jacob at some point, or Israel, would be broken up into two groups. Okay, we have that as the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, and eventually we see that as the two houses of Judah and Ephraim. Okay, so that's kind of pointed to and hinted at here quite a little bit. All right, who wants to go next?
I've read this, so I think for me, where it says that he separated each of them, I think personally we could do that ourselves in not coming fully, I'm sorry for the word, fully naked to you for proper counsel. So when we withhold information, thinking if we say this, we're going to be scolded or in trouble, then how can we get proper counsel when we withhold and come fully to leadership for direction? Because then we're going to get the wrong information if we don't give everything we should, instead of trying to separate things. Does that make sense?
Well, I understand what you're saying. I'm not sure how it connects to what we read today, but the idea of hedging and kind of holding things back. And look, he wasn't showing Esau all his cards either in that case, but he also wasn't fully trusting Yah. And so, but then again, he didn't have all of the full counsel there. He didn't have any other leadership. He was in a pretty hard place. Look, you got to understand also, for all of you men especially, this is what happens when you're uncovered, when you rely on a direct revelation. He only had limited information directly from Yah. He only had information come in very, small spurts here and there. He needed guidance. He didn't have anybody to guide him. He had that before with his parents, but then he had to go leave after the whole thing with the birthright and the blessing. So that left him without a covering. And so for all of you that want to think it's great and wonderful to just go out there and have no covering and just let the Ruach teach you directly and everything else, you could find yourself often, I'm not saying it's a horrible thing, but you can find yourself often like Jacob with not knowing really what to do. Because he had to just guess. He had to try to figure this out for himself. He didn't have anybody to say, hey, what should I do? Okay? Who wants to go next? Okay, over here, Shira. That's okay.
Could we go to the wrestling match?
Sure.
Okay. I still don't quite get this. I can see, prophetic pictures, our flesh versus Yahweh's righteousness and all that. But he says, your name is going to be changed to Yaakov, no longer Yaakov, but Yisrael, because you have striven with Elohim and with men and have overcome. Now, the man touched his hip, dislocated his hip, so he really lost, didn't he?
Well, he didn't let go, though.
But he didn't let go, okay.
Okay, so look, the overcoming with men and the overcoming with Elohim are not necessarily taking the same form. But his overcoming with Elohim was that he showed Elohim, I'm not going to let go. I'm going to hold on. It doesn't matter what you do to me. And believe me, some of us have had some hip problems. Imagine having it popped out of place. If you ever dislocated a hip, that's about as painful as it gets. And guess what? It doesn't say anywhere that he ever put it back. Okay, so he had that hip problem. And so, but he didn't let go. I mean, some of us remember being little and the kids, and you might scratch somebody or pinch them or bite them, and they might let go. Popping a hip out hurt more than anything that ever was done to you as a kid. And he didn't let go.
You know that I know about that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. He didn't let go. So it speaks of Abba giving us an open door in prayer. Is that sort of what it is?
Well, no, I mean, look, this is a relational thing that Jacob is, look at this as a metaphor, not even as a literal. Look, Jacob has been wrestling with how to deal with men and how to deal with Elohim. And so now he gets a physical manifestation of what that's all about. He's trying to understand the whole deal. And so he realizes that he needs to hold tight and ask for blessing, but he's got to hold tight. And that the pain or whatever's going on, that it doesn't matter. I'm going to take it, and no matter what it is, and I'm going to hold on. So a lot of it also would have to do with, and I don't have it in my notes here, but I think I put it in the overcoming teaching, a lot of it also has to do with the Hebrew here for striving, and the way the words are defined here, the nature of the type of striving that he did. But the idea is that, he has had strife or striving or making the effort with man that's been going on. He's been battling with his brother, battling with Lavan. He's having lots of problems that way. But also he's battling in his mind with his vertical relationship and where he's supposed to be in that relationship and what his responsibilities are. Because got to remember, while at the one hand, he thought, well, I'm listening to my mom and my dad, and I did what I was told. And on the one hand, I went and I did everything that Lavan asked me to do. But everybody kept changing the deal on me and things. Well, on the one hand, I kept getting blessed, but on the other hand, I kept getting cursed. On the other hand, I kept getting blessed. I don't know what's going on here. And so he's basically said, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to hold on. Whatever it is, I'm going to hold on. So that's probably the message that we can glean out of that will be the most valuable.
Thank you. That's a good lesson. Later, he asked, Yaakov his name and then changed his name. And then Yaakov asks him, saying, please let me know your name. And he says, why do you ask about my name? And I just kind of get the feeling that it's like you should know who I am, because later Yaakov calls the place, face to face. I've seen Elohim face to face, and my life is preserved. Would this be Yeshua?
Okay, so I actually wrote this verse down in my notes today, which wasn't in my notes before, from a different point of view than I've had before, which is the idea of, first of all, I'm going to answer the question to some degree more than I maybe normally would. But the first answer would be, why do we struggle with this? He says, why do you ask my name? And he never tells him. He never answers him. So why do we think any more than Jacob? Jacob says, please tell me your name. And he says, no. And now you want to know the same thing. Is it Yeshua? Is it this? Is it that? Well, he wouldn't tell Jacob. I'm not going to tell you. No. Nah. And it's not like I know or don't know. That's not the point. The point is, he doesn't feel it important that we know the name. But what he does tell us, back to the point that you were making, he says, well, he does recognize and says, this is, for I've seen Elohim face to face. He says, this is named the Panil, for Panim, face, Panim al Panim, face to face. So this is Panil. I've seen the face of El. Okay, so if I've seen Elohim's face to face, that kind of thing. Notice now, let's go back to the verse. He says, please let me know your authority. And he said, why do you ask my authority? Here, I'll show you my authority. I'm blessing you. You asked me for the blessing. Now you're going to question my authority? You knew I had authority. Why else would you ask for my blessing? You said just 5 seconds ago, I'm not letting go until you bless me. He says, okay, I'm going to bless you, proving his authority. And then he recognized from the blessing that this was El. In what form? Was it a messenger? Was it through Yeshua? Was it through like a Michael, Gabriel, like a messenger? It doesn't say. And if he wouldn't tell Jacob, he's certainly not telling us. Okay? So, can we speculate? Sure. And there's no lack of that online. Okay, you can find, well, it's the Memra. No, it's Yeshua. No, it's this. No, it's that. It doesn't say. And so we should be satisfied when he asked and didn't get an answer. It's okay not to have the answer. But I think we can gain a lesson, though, from the idea of, he's saying, right after he said no, he blesses him there. And then he says immediately afterwards, he recognizes, I've seen El face to face.
And tripped the breaker, which knocked out all the garage.
So in other words, it is your fault. Just glad the microphone's off, otherwise you'd be more embarrassed. People they're reading my lips. Okay. Yeah.
Hello, hello.
The GFCI, there's one in the little heater, but that's working. But the rest of the garage doesn't work, so I think it's on the panel.
It could be, or it could be like, I've seen electrical people put a GFCI. So it is working, but it's not working.
Test.
So we're sitting here talking about
Okay, so we're talking about the garage.
It's not
Everybody's getting to
Shabbat,
hear
you
it. That's fine.
It's real life. Yeah, it's real
But,
life.
yeah. So if you can make if it's on it won't show tripped in the box.
Test it. There we go. Hey.
Is that better? Okay.
For all of you on live stream, you got to hear a wonderful discussion with myself and my contractor trying to figure out why my garage got powered off. Okay. But that has nothing to do with tonight's Torah portion, and we didn't realize that while the mic wasn't working on the speakers here, it was still going through the live stream, at least a little bit. You getting it back again, or you're on a delay? There you go. Hey, all right. I heard myself say it on his phone. Okay, Shira, wherever we left off, take it again.
Okay. Well, I had a third question.
Okay.
Why? He wrestles with him until the breaking of day. Okay, I'm thinking of your light and darkness teaching. And he said, let me go for the day breaks. Okay, so I have to get this done while it's still dark. Let me go while the day breaks. And I thought of how the kind of darkness that's leading into a revelation that you were
Yeah, and that could be
talking
part
about.
of it, the idea that, darkness is a place that something is waiting to be revealed. But it also could be, in order to do the wrestling like we have here, the entity took on a physical enough form in the dark that really could not be seen clearly and didn't want to be seen clearly in the breaking of day.
Wow.
Okay, so that's part of using the darkness to hide something on purpose. Okay, so you have both of those things possibly going on there. Clearly there was a revealing that was happening, all right? But I would think that in order to wrestle, the entity took on a physical form. I mean, it's very possible in the scenario here, because it says here in the way it's described that a man wrestled with him. So he understood this being to be in the form of a man. And so, but in the dark, and believe me, outside at night, especially if there's no, full moon and nothing bright like that, I mean, it could be dark enough you can't really see very much. And he couldn't see the face of the person he was wrestling with, and maybe didn't want the dawning of the light to expose that.
Okay, what occurs to me is, has anybody ever been in this place where you're really struggling over something that you don't even realize that you're struggling against the Almighty?
Sure.
And
sure.
That.
I mean, that's also a possible metaphor, is that, this is a metaphor for him to understand, look, you're not just striving against men, you're also striving against me, and you've got to let that go, you've got to overcome it, you've got to learn to trust me and hold on tight for the blessing. That means hold on tight no matter what the ride, it's going to be a bumpy ride. No matter what the ride's going to be like, hold on.
So it's like the emunah, when you get to the place where you realize everything that happens is allowed or caused by him. He's very aware. It's part of his plan. And so that place where, I've wrestled in the past with things, but as I've grown in an understanding of Torah and under your teaching and tutelage, it's like I don't struggle anymore so much. It's like right away, I know, well, whatever this is from Yahweh, so I can rest. I can hold on until the blessing comes. So
Amen.
I really appreciate that.
Amen. Okay, who's next? Hands up, hands up. Okay, wait, come back to Michael on this side again.
In that same chapter, the last part, this is why the children of Israel to this day do not eat the sinew of the hip, which is on the socket of the thigh. Could you explain that?
No filet mignon. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so first of all, and this is one I was wondering when somebody was going to ask this, if they were going to ask it. Okay, so what you have here is, this is why the Jews, generally speaking, won't eat filet mignon, because to take the nerve out of the meat, it's it's expensive, and it's a hard thing for them to do, because extracting the sciatic nerve, properly out of it is a problem. The thing that I think we need to get out of this is that this is not a Torah command. They're saying that by tradition, Israel decided, because of their father, Israel or Jacob, having the the hip socket popped, they decided not to eat. Yahweh doesn't say, do not eat of the. There is no thou shalt not. Okay? But they're letting you know where the tradition came from. Okay, hopefully that answers the question. So your filet mignon is fine. Hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, wait, Mr. Hayes, I know you're watching. If you can go in my office and grab out of my little refrigerator my water bottle, that'd be great. Yeah, Michael, if you want to go get it, it's fine, but he's got to unlock the door to get it, but... All right, live stream.
All right, we got a few. As usual, let me know if you answered any of these, as I was contending with a few people. on
Okay, I answered the first one and the fourth one.
I'll skip
No,
those.
let's skip those. Oh, thank you.
All right, Kirsten Miller. Was Rachel's death in Genesis 35:18 tied to the curse Jacob made in Genesis 31:32, or just a coincidence? 31:32.
And were you comparing it to 35:18?
Yes, sir.
No, I mean, it doesn't make that kind of connection, no. I mean, the thing that was going on in 31, he specifically said, hey, if you find anybody with your stuff, you can kill them, that's fine. And they didn't, because she was hiding them. But this is just giving you the chronology and the length of days for each one, and this is when she ends up dying in this chapter here.
Got it. Christine Race would like to know, were Rachel and Leah twins? Is this possibly why both were taken in by Jacob?
It doesn't say, but we talked about that last week, I think, a little bit.
Carrie Soveri, comment 32:7. When Jacob heard his brother was coming with 400 men, he was afraid. This shows that we really are like the first Israelites. We get scared and are learning to trust Abba just like him.
Well said.
Philip Mason, Genesis 32:24-32. I just want to point out that what an incredible feat this was. The scriptures doesn't say how long they fought, but wrestling for 3 to 5 minutes straight is pretty exhausting. Also, I've never had anything popped out of socket, but I imagine that's extremely painful.
So true.
Norma Silva, 32:30. If Jacob really thought that he saw Elohim face to face, and he and all of them thought the interaction was with the Father, are they going to be accountable for the law they were given, or in the resurrection, will they have the opportunity to know Yeshua?
Say that one more time.
If Jacob really thought that he saw Elohim face to face, and he and all of them thought the interaction was with the Father, are they going to be accountable for the law they were given, or in the resurrection, will they have the opportunity to know Yeshua?
Okay, I think I know the question you're asking, and this comes up on a regular basis, because the idea being that these are all people that were before Yeshua. Okay, same answer I always give. Stop worrying about it. Okay, it's not anything that should be on your plate. The Father knows what he wants to do. He knows who's going to get in and how they're going to get in, when they're going to get in. And I promise you, Jacob will be there. Okay. And so this is I'm glad you brought up the verse though for this reason, the idea, or the person before that, when he said about seeing face to face, the last part of the verse says, "And my life is preserved." In other words, he saw Elohim in his life being preserved. In other words, he had just gone through this potential death with his brother, and he saw Elohim in that. He saw Elohim in that he said, I see how my life will be preserved. He says, I'm scared of Esau, I'm worried about it. He said, but my life's going to be preserved. I get it now. And now when he goes forward to see Esau in chapter 33, he's not afraid. Not the same way. But he goes and bows down to his brother, which, by the way, is another verse we need to cover, okay? Because we talk about the idea of bowing before. Okay, there's no problem bowing before men in a respectful, honoring way. You're not bowing before them as if they're the Creator or the Father. He bowed before his brother. And we talk about this in the teaching where we talk about, which one was that in? Was it the Master teach us to pray, or what was the one where we talked about them bowing down? No, it wasn't in the honor one. Anyway, what is worship? Thank you. That's the teaching. Okay, what is worship? Because in the idea of worship is the idea of bowing before. Okay? Oh, well, you can't bow before a man. Well, no, you can. Jacob does it right here, and it's perfectly appropriate. We see this in other places. It's a sign of respect. Okay? Daniel did it. We see it in a lot of places, and it's not a problem. There's a difference between bowing before your Creator, in other words, in worship as God, as Elohim, as the Almighty, and respectfully bowing before someone of power. Okay? Okay? Well, Mordecai didn't, but the idea is, and I like the way it's actually worded in one of the movies that I watched on the book of Esther, where he says, I kneel before my king. You're not my king. That was Prince Haman. He says, but I only obey and lay down on my face and bow before my creator. Okay? And that was where the whole thing was. He wanted him to kneel like he was the king or bow like he was the creator. He said, I'm not going to do that. Okay, so that was a whole different thing between him and Haman. But it has to do with the subtleties and understanding the culture. But here you see Yaakov doing this in verse 33, verse 3. And he himself passed over before them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. It's a sign of submissive respect. I'm respecting your authority. Okay? But there's a way, bowing is not bowing, if you know what I'm saying. A lot of it has to do with the context and the way that you do it, etc. All right? And so that's a part of this as well. Okay, next question.
Randall McFarland. Question, could the messenger dislocating the hip be emblematic of the separation of the southern kingdom?
I don't think so, but we could read almost anything into anything. I say we have to be really careful that we're trying to read too much into stuff. The simple message is hold on tight and commit not to let go. Let's stick with that simplicity.
Chris, Andy, Ollie Dennis. Question, Genesis 32:32. What is the not eating, etc.? Is this a tradition or is this a Torah command?
Yeah, we covered that. It's okay. Tradition.
Stevenson's, let's see. Is there a connection between Jacob thinking he'd have to strive with Esau, but really having to strive with Elohim? 33:10.
Well, $33.10, is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
Well, look, he's trying to show him as much honor and respect and saying that I realize, when he says, I've seen your face like seeing Elohim, he's saying, I recognize that you have the power of life and death over me at this moment. Okay? That's sort of more of an idiomatic phrase. Okay, he's saying, look, I see that I recognize that you could kill me right now, that you could choose for me to live or die. Which is what Elohim has that power, right? To live or die. But he also, I know, recognized in himself that Elohim was ultimately going to make that decision. Okay? But remember, he's appealing to Esau's ego, pride, and the slightly, beat up pride from before of Jacob, dishonoring his authority and his headship. And so here he's trying to honor him he's bowing 7 times. He sent them all the presents. He's showing the things that you would do to honor someone in authority. He's saying, look, I recognize you could kill me, but I don't want to fight with you anymore. I don't want to have an issue. I don't want to have a strife with you. Okay, now bear in mind, Jacob could have walked over to him and said, get out of my face. I have the blessing. I'm in charge. Who are you? Father gave me the authority. He could have said that. Couldn't he? That's exactly what the blessing would have been. Hey, how dare you come and think you're going to get in my face? But instead, he decides to avoid the strife and say, look, I really don't want to fight with you. Sure, you could kill me. You could kill all of us right now. I'm not coming to you in an aggressive manner. So you have the power of life and death over me right now. And Esau realizes, you know what? He thought of it as a much more combative thing. Esau loved the fight. There was no fight here. For him, there was not going to be any honor in beating up a defenseless bunch of people, who weren't coming at him ready for fight. Because he came ready to fight. Esau was ready. All right, next question.
Okay, Stevenson's again. 34:15. The boys are treating circumcision lightly. It's only for covenant they took it and used it. They took it and used it in the wrong way.
All right, well, we got a whole different discussion we need to have over what happened with Dina. Well, we could do that here in a minute. Let's skip the Dina thing first. Let's finish all the other stuff, and then I'll get into the whole thing with Dina.
Okay.
It's a good question. We will answer it.
Okay.
Okay? But the whole thing needs a lot more explanation.
Okay, Olivia and Janet Hoffman. Rabbi, 34, 26 to 29. Just wondering if this act eventually brought some curses to Shimon and Levi, as they did not consult Jacob in this decision.
Okay, that's part of the whole Dina thing. We'll get to that.
Philip Mason, 35, 1 through 7.
Okay.
They put away their mighty ones. Why did Jacob hide them in a tree instead of destroying them? Is that the kind of representative of how we are hesitant of letting go of things in our lives?
Believe it or not, there was a superstition of the time about burying things under a terebinth tree, and this would have prevented them from digging them up. Okay? So this had to do with understanding the culture at the time. So he stuck them in a place they wouldn't have touched them. All right?
Chris and Ollie Dennis, question, Rabbi, Genesis 35:2. So Jacob knew about Rachel stealing the household gods?
Well, I mean, at this point, I don't know if it's specifically dealing with the Rachel thing or if it's dealing with the fact that they may have picked up other stuff along the way. They've been traveling for a little bit. And so I don't know what other details that we would have, but, this was after he had fled the face of Esau. We don't have exact timing on this and what they might have picked up along the way or what they may have made for themselves. Okay, there's a lot of them. They got materials that they come across that they could have, made into an image of some sort or anything else. And so he must have become aware of that and decided this stuff has got to go. Okay, what else?
Evangeline 35:10. Any significance of Jacob's changing of his name to Israel?
Yes, and that's a whole another thing. And we covered that in Discovering Your Identity, I believe, in a pretty good way.
Helen, what is 35:11 talking about? Sovereign, come from your body.
It just means that you're going to, through the lineage that comes from you, there'll be kings. Kings will come, be birthed genealogically. You're going to be giving birth to those that down the line will be kings. There will be kings coming out of you. Okay.
Right. Got a couple more here. Chris Blown, Genesis 35:14. What is the significance of building a standing column and pouring oil and drink?
No idea. It comes up often. It's part of the way that they mark a space. It has to do with connection to altars in some way. I don't have a study that I've done on that specific thing. But you see them doing this often. Standing columns, pouring oil on it is part of designating a space. The main thing is that it would be something that would be there for a while, that if they pass by again, they would see it. It would be there to remind them of that spot. Okay, it's like a marker. Okay?
Chris and Ollie Dennis, Rabbi, Genesis 35:22. Didn't Reuben break a Torah command sleeping with his father's wife, concubine? And how did this affect things?
Well, he did, and that's why you don't see him as the firstborn getting anything. It's one of the reasons he got skipped. Okay? You also see Levi, Shimon, etc., doing some problematic things as well. And so there's reasons, we don't see all of the reasons, but there's reasons why we skip all the way down to Joseph. Okay? And it's not just because he was Rachel's firstborn, etc., etc. But we do see that there's a skippage going on here.
Olivia and Janet Hoffman had a question. What's the difference between a wife and a concubine?
I had about 4 wise guy lines pop through my head. I'm not going to say any of them. See, all of you are laughing because you just filled in your own lines. Shame on you. Couldn't find that out? Okay. Kirk is now apologizing for blurting out Daniel earlier and that he couldn't find that verse. Okay. All right, anyway, so, I guess, okay, the difference between a wife and a concubine. All right, you know what? These, again, because I'm looking at the clock, these are questions that require a lot more to explain culturally and things that were going on. Just like the simplicity of trying, it's not so simple, the changing of Jacob's name to Israel and all the ramifications of that. They're just longer questions. The one about Israel, I do have a teaching that covers. The one about concubines and wives and things, we don't yet have a teaching about, but we probably will when we deal with husbands, wives, and relationships and things. But I don't have time if I want to get into the Dina thing. So please forgive me. We'll have to cover that another time. Next question.
Okay, Norma Silva, I'm sorry, no, wait. Olivia and Jen Hoffman, 3612, could you please let us know the difference? Oh, same thing.
Okay, by the way, let me make it this simple. It had to do with the rights of, at least from the simplicity. The wife had certain rights, concubines had different, were treated in a different way in terms of what they were owed, in terms of relationship, etc. And it's much more complicated than that, but just the simplicity has to do with the way the law was understood. A wife was entitled to certain things, a concubine would not have been entitled to the same things. Okay?
Just two more.
Okay.
Going back to 34:13, Brian Martin, was it wrong for the brothers to speak out when their father was there?
34:13?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Okay, let me, okay, is there any more?
One more.
Okay, because I'm going to hold on to that question now, because I'm going to answer that as part of the Dina thing. Go ahead to the next one.
34:23. Can we say, this is Norma Silva, can we say that the actions of Jacob's sons towards Hamor was a curse over their seeds? Was there any Elohim interaction on what they did?
No, well, no, there was no Elohim action on what they did, and I don't know what we would read into that other than that, but let's kind of get into this, and I'll answer the first question first, which was, well, let's try and take this in somewhat order. Hopefully I'll remember the questions. So we have the only girl that really gets mentioned, like in Scripture, other than the wives of certain people, and she's like, all of a sudden we're dealing with a daughter, a sister. We don't really deal with that very much. And this is in the middle of all kinds of other really pretty big deal things happening, And I mean, we just had this conflict with Lavan and all this, vying for, control of the wives over the husband and all the children. And before we get to the Esau problem, we got this thing going on with Dina. All right? And so what's going on with Dina? Let's first understand that this is represented in many different ways, especially in the Jewish community, even in the Messianic and a lot of the churches, that Dina was raped and she was taken terrible advantage of and all these kind of things, and I disagree 1,000,000%. Okay? Look, it says here in verse 3 that Shechem, the son of Hamor, his being clung to Dina, the daughter of Yaakov, and he loved the girl and spoke kindly to the girl. So she was nice to her. Okay? Then it says in verse 11 and 12, that Shechem said to her father and her brothers, let me find favor in your eyes, and whatever you say, I will give you. In other words, he was like, I love her so much, whatever you want, I'll give it to you. I don't care what it is. Name the price, ask me a bride price, and a gift ever so high. He says, I don't care what it is. All right? That's point number 2. And then in chapter 34, verse 19, it says that he was so excited about doing anything that when they told him to get circumcised, he didn't say, give me a bunch of shekels or a bunch of gold or, serve me 7 years. He said, I want you to cut a place that's very sensitive to you. He says, and he, young man, did not delay to do this because he delighted in Jacob's daughter so much. Okay, remember, rape is a violent, angry, not loving thing. Now, everything in here says he loved her. Now, here's the really interesting thing that backs up sort of that maybe she loved him. In verse 26, we have a very strange thing. They killed Hamor and Shechem, his son, with the edge of the sword, and they took Dina from Shechem's house. What was she doing there? If she was raped and not screaming bloody murder to come and save me, they raped me. After all this discussion, knowing that quote unquote they had defiled her and everything else, she's still in Shechem's house? I think she was exactly where she wanted to be. I think the two of them got carried away. The boy wanted to do the right thing. He said, look, I'll do whatever you want. I don't know your rules. Okay? Now, they said she was defiled. They could say, okay, so if they had sex, that would defile her. But that's, again, the brothers are the ones who are flipping out more than the father. And only certain brothers. Now, let's go to the next. So I think that this is two young people got carried away. You don't ever see her complaining about, well, he did this to me and look what he did and all these things and I was, and she's still there in verse, like they went and killed everybody and then took her from the house of Shechem. What was she still doing there? Okay, now having said all of that, the question then came up, what about the brothers speaking up when the father was in the room? I want to caution all of you. Okay, it doesn't matter what level you're at. Children, if you're in the same room with your parents. Wives, if you're in the room with your husband. Husbands, if you're in the room with someone who's in authority over you. You do not need to be talking if the authorities in the room can address whatever it is that's going on, unless you specifically are needed in the conversation. In other words, of a situation, I'm not just talking about social talk. An issue comes up. And if that issue is being addressed by the husband, the wife does not need to interject, intervene, and interfere with whatever. I don't care if you don't like it. Children, the same thing. If there are children watching, we have some of the children here. If the parents are handling something, you don't need to step up and do anything. Jacob was handling it. Oh, well, Levi, Simeon, etc., they didn't like the way he handled it. That's too bad. It's not your decision. Okay? If your teacher's in a room and somebody asks a question, let the teacher answer the question unless the teacher asks you to answer the question. Or you can ask the teacher, would it be okay if I answer the question? You have to understand that there's a certain respect we learn for authority in a space. Okay? I remember being in lots of places where I've had teachers, and if a question came up about whatever the thing was, like when I was in martial arts class, if somebody asked a karate question and the teacher was in a room or a higher rank than me, I wasn't saying a word. It wasn't for me to say, unless the higher rank asked me to answer the question. It's the way it is in most things. Unless you're apprenticing in plumbing or construction or in teaching or anything, whatever your thing that you do, a question comes up, you should defer to the one who's highest in the room. You don't need to impress everybody with how smart you are, nor do you have to worry that they might not answer it correctly. It's not your problem. If they answer it incorrectly, then they have to learn how to handle things that they answer incorrectly. Now, you may want to ask politely if it's okay if you can say something or if you want to interject it, maybe even privately and not embarrass them in a public way. But we need to understand, his sons were not respectful here. They went against. So who was right and who was wrong? There were those who would argue, well, Jacob was wrong. He didn't defend the daughter. Well, no, the brothers were wrong because they didn't listen to the father. He had already handled it. It's a good debate. To see which way you want to go with that. Because you have a lot of deceit going here and a lot of questioning of motives, because look what happens. You have in verse 13, okay, the brothers say, only on this condition will we agree to you if you become as we are, as to have every male of you circumcised. Now, did they really mean to become as we are? Well, they did become as they were, not in the good way. They were lying. Because we see in verse 23, it says, their herds and their possessions and all their beasts, should they not be ours? Shechem had a little agenda too. We do the circumcision thing, that all their wealth becomes our wealth. So everybody's playing a little game here. No different than Laban and Jacob, except this one's more life and death. So when we talk about them taking circumcision light, no, they weren't. They were taking circumcision completely in an embarrassing, defiling the idea way. They knew if they circumcised, they would be in pain on the third day and not able to hardly function, and that's when they could go in and take care of business, only a couple of them against all of the others. They wouldn't need a lot of numbers to make this happen. So they wanted them weakened by the circumcision process. Yeah, wow is right. Okay? And by the way, let that also be a lesson for all of those that are thinking that you've read enough history to say that circumcision was just a taking off of a tiny little nick of skin. If you just took off a little nick, a little piece of the foreskin, is that going to really put them in this kind of a condition? Not likely. Okay? It wasn't likely. Nor would it have been like much for David to kill all the ones he took and took the foreskins, and you have that whole story. Would that have taken up much of a sack full of whatever he brought of all the Philistines? Okay? But that wouldn't have weakened them going through the recovery from almost like a major surgery as adults to have the foreskin removed. Because a lot of people argue, well, it's only more modern times and everything. Well, yes, in more modern times, you definitely see that it links maybe possibly historically to talk about to the whole Hellenization problem with the Maccabees and the fact that if the circumcision wasn't so complete, that it wouldn't be as obvious that they were circumcised, because after all, part of the Hellenization was the men would go to gymnasiums where they would do all these athletics and they would do it naked, which means that they would be seen in all of their glory, so to speak, and therefore you would be able to know if somebody was circumcised. And so they were tending to go towards this little nothing that wouldn't really be that obvious to anybody. But realize this weakened the men to the point where they were easy to slaughter. So keep in mind, so there was a lot of deceit and there weren't a lot of real motives. What was the real motives here? The brothers did not want them to be covenanted. They said, oh, be as we are. No, as we are meant covenanted. It should have been. Now this I know is before Moses, etc., but this is like covenanted. Because remember, circumcision is part of covenant sign. No, they wanted them weak so they could kill them. Of course, Shechem himself, he wanted the girl. His motives, I think, were fine. Everybody else was saying, well, why would we need to do this? Just so your boy can marry the girl? And then, of course, Hamor says, wait a minute. We need to do this. Remember, Hamor, says, shouldn't all their possessions, their stuff become ours? Yeah, do this to make my son happy, but also we get everything. It's worth it. It's worth it. Now you got to remember, these are also people, you're thinking, well, that's a big deal. These are people that would cut themselves for the dead. They would cut themselves for different things. They would make markings. This was not an unusual thing for people to do something in their body with a knife. Because you might think, wow, that's an awful lot to do. Not to get out all their possessions and all their cattle and all their daughters and all this stuff. That wouldn't be an unusual thing to do some of these things. So hopefully we can understand this a little bit, because, this, and by the way, ladies, and watch this out with your daughters, and guys, same kind of problem for the guys too, but in a different way. This all starts with Dina making this mistake number one. She went out to see what the other ladies, the daughters of the land, do. Guys, you can make the same mistake. You can go out to see what the guys in the land do. What are they doing out there? Why do you want to know what they're doing? You're still trying to figure out what you're supposed to be doing and not doing. It says, and Dina, the daughter of Leah, whom she had born to Yaakov, went out to see the daughters of the land and got herself in all kinds of trouble. All right? So that's part of the problem. All right. It's already 10 o'clock, and I think that covered almost all the things I wanted to cover, and of the things I said I would put off in dealing with the Dina thing. Any questions about that particular thing? You got something else? Hold on, we're going to get you a mic. And while we're waiting for the mic, also in chapter 35, he goes back to Bethel, which fulfills a promise he made that he would go back to Bethel. Remember when he had his head on the rock and he swore that he would come back to the place, and if you got me back, they would tithe if he brought me back to this place safely. Okay, so we see that being fulfilled in chapter 35. Okay, go ahead.
In 33:17, and Jacob set out to Sukkot and built himself a house and made booths for his livestock. That is why the name of the place is called Sukkot. I feel like I'm missing something there, like Sukkot being like the feasts? Sukkot?
No, Sukkot was the name of a place first. You actually see that as one of the places they go when they leave Egypt. Okay? Which is this place right here. Okay, Sukkot is a place, and they named it after the fact that they built booths there. Okay, Sukkot simply means booths, and so we celebrate a feast called the Feast of Booths, but it was also then the name of a place. Okay? So if you look at, give me one second. Okay, if you look at Numbers chapter 33, okay, the children of Israel, it says that in verse 5, the children of Israel departed from Ramses and camped at Sukkot. And then they departed from Sukkot and camped at Etham. Okay, Sukkot's a place. But it's also a booth. Okay? All right. That's a good question, because if you only know Sukkot as a feast, as a holy day, it would be a little confusing. Okay? How many of you that triggered in your mind that that was one of the places they went right at the beginning when they left Egypt? Okay? Numbers 33 lists their journeys. So that's a place to go to find these things real quickly. All right, anybody else real quick? Okay, well, let's see. Bring it to May first. Wait, Steve, okay, you're coming around the back? Okay, you're going around the back. And then we'll bring it out to the live stream. We'll try to get the last two questions in here.
In 35:8.
Bring it right up to your mouth.
In 35:8, can you explain, and Deborah, Rivka's nurse, died, and she was buried under the terebinth tree?
No, I don't.
The name was called Alan Bakuth?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's something in the Hebrew there that I'd have to look up.
Well, when he buried items under the terebinth tree before, you mentioned that there were some
Superstitions, so they wouldn't go and tamper with it. Yeah. So nobody's going to tamper with her remains either if they put her under a tree. And that could be something as much as that, because remember, a lot of times they buried them in caves and they could seal it up. And here they, stealing things from graves and doing other things with graves was common enough back then, still common enough today in certain cultures. And so they would have thought maybe this was a place that would have been left alone.
Okay.
That certainly is a possibility.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Steve, bring it back to Manny and see if we can wrap this up. I think I covered everything on my list, so we're good.
Okay, just one last one. Kendall Phillips, in 34:11, Shechem asked both the father and the brothers, but it's the brothers who answer. Why didn't Jacob answer for his daughter?
Again, we don't have all the details of the conversation, but what we're seeing is what we needed to see was that the brothers were usurping. Okay? Now, it could have been that Jacob stood up for a minute, left the room because he was upset about the situation. It could have been anything. But the brothers speak up. Remember, the father's in sort of in a very tough place. He's got to figure out how to handle the situation. He's dealing with some really challenging things. And he might not have even been a problem that when the brothers spoke up that he disagreed with them in principle. Okay? And so when they spoke, the idea of legitimately having them circumcised and do the things would have, it just doesn't say. Okay? But the point was they had no business speaking. Okay, Jacob was handling it. It's his daughter. All right? But we know that the brothers always had a problem with authority and proper authority, knowing who's in authority. And when his father decided to give Joseph some authority, they didn't like that at all. Because we're going to get to Joseph here in a little bit, and when we get to Joseph, we're going to find out that jacket he had wasn't bright and colorful necessarily. It was made of many lengths of cloth, and it was a symbol of authority. We see the same language for a daughter of David. Hamelech, the King David his daughter had a jacket like that, symbolizing that she had authority, that it was his jacket, it was a cloak of authority. And so when they were jealous, not of his pretty jacket, oh look, Dad made him a pretty jacket. No, Dad just made everybody know for sure he's the one getting the blessing, he's the one getting everything. And they're like, oh, that's not happening, we're going to kill him. See, we're made to think it was a petty jealousy over receiving, spoiled brat got a bunch of gifts. No. They knew, just like Esau, when he knew that he gave his birthright over, and when Jacob had gone in and gotten the blessing, and how mad he was, and ready to kill Jacob? Well, this is exactly like that. Jacob made clear that Joseph was the one. We're going to see that in the Torah. But explaining it now won't spoil anything. But that's why they were mad. They were like, no, that ain't happening. We'll make this not happen. We'll kill him. Then it will go like it's supposed to Reuben and whatever, right? We'll just kill him and get him out of here. They were okay with the firstborn being Reuben. He had been the firstborn all the time. Joseph comes later. They had years of it being just Reuben on top. And so you'll see that coming up. Anyway, any more? Okay, you have the mic back. All right, who wants to close us in prayer? Charles already opened us. Okay, Michael, you want to do it? No, Wayne, go bring it over to Wayne. Let him do it. We don't get Wayne here every Tuesday, so it's nice to have Wayne here. Okay, Wayne's going to close us in prayer, and then if anybody wants to, they can come up here and we'll wave to the people out there on our live stream. Okay, Wayne, go ahead and close us in prayer.
Our Father, our King, we come before you humbly, and we just thank you for this time that we can gather and just read and learn and understand your word. We're so grateful that we have a anointed and appointed here to help us and sort things out. And we just ask that you be with us for the remainder of the week and just give us shalom and just be with us, Father. And we just come before you by the authority given to your Son, Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right, well, thank you. If anybody wants to be on camera, come on up. All right. I'll just look up at Kirk, make sure, Kirk, we're all in the screen, okay. All right, so on 3, we're going to wish everybody a good night. We're going to say Laila Tov, then wish them a good week, Shavua Tov, and then tell them we love them. Ready? Here we go.